Okay, welcome to our first grammar review. We're going to be going over some basic foundational grammar skills, and we're going to go through these very quickly because these are the types of things that you have probably already covered. As high school students, you should have most of this foundational knowledge, but I just want to review it to make sure we're all on the same page. We're going to start with verbs. And I'm starting off by saying what you think you know, because a lot of people in early elementary grammar programs get taught or get the impression that nouns are the most important words in the English language. That's because we start off by teaching younger kids that nouns form the subject of the sentence, and that you find the subject by asking what the sentence is about. And if the sentence is about that, well, it's obviously the most important thing, right? Well, unfortunately, that gives the wrong impression because verbs are the most important part of the sentence, not subjects. In fact, in the imperative sentences, you usually don't have subjects at all. Verbs, however, are essential to a sentence. If you have no verb, then you have no sentence. So what do we need to know about verbs? We're going to review the types of verbs. We're going to talk about their forms, and we're going to talk about tenses and aspects. Verbs also have voices, and voice is a very important section to talk about because I know for a fact that that's tested on the ACT. But we're going to spend an entire lesson on nothing but voice. So for today, we're going to focus on the first three: type, form, tense, and aspect. Types of verbs. Well, the ones that are most common and that you probably are most comfortable with identifying will be your action verbs. They express either physical or emotional actions, words like jump, dance, sing, smile. Linking verbs are verbs that express a state of being, and they link the subject to something in the predicate. The forms of be are the most common linking verbs. We also have words like seems or becomes that are linking verbs. And then the auxiliaries. Auxiliary verbs will work in conjunction with other verbs to express tense, aspect, mood, or voice. You will also see these referred to as helping verbs. The examples of auxiliary verbs: the forms of be, the forms of do, and the forms of have. And then you have the modal auxiliaries. These are words like will or would, can or could, shall or should. Most auxiliary verbs can also be main verbs, so you have to look at how they are used in the sentence to determine if they're an auxiliary or a main verb. If they're auxiliary, they'll be part of a verb phrase. If they're a main verb, they'll usually be by themselves. Okay. Let's take a moment to discuss our little special snowflake, which is the verb to be. This is what is known as a copula. That's just a fancy word for a word that links the subject of the sentence with something in the predicate. To be functions as the English copula, and it also is an auxiliary or helping verb for several different tenses or aspects. So that makes it by far the most used verb in the English language. Unfortunately, it is also the most complex verb in the English language. It has 8 forms, which is more than any other verb. You need to just learn those and memorize them because it is very important that you identify the forms of be. It helps you identify a lot of what's going on with the verb phrase if you recognize them immediately. The forms are am, is, are, was, were, be, been, being, and you need to be able to say them just about that fast, so memorize them. All right, let's talk about forms. Verbs in English can be divided into 5 principal forms: the base or infinitive, the simple present, the present participle, the simple past, and the past participle. Let's see what that looks like. With a regular verb, like our first 2 examples, walk and jump, the simple present is the base form, or it's the base form with an S. That's when the subject is a third-person singular subject. The present participle is always an ing form of the verb. The simple past is formed by adding either d or ed to the base, and the past participle is the same as the simple past. That is for regular English verbs, which comprise about 80% of your English verbs. Will follow that pattern. The other 20% are the irregular verbs, and those just have to be learned because they don't follow a set pattern. You have some verbs like eat, which change the simple past to ate and then have a past participle, eaten, which doesn't follow any particular pattern. Then you might have one like see, which goes to the simple past of saw and the past participle of seen. And then you have those like run, where the past participle reverts back and is the same as the base. There is no particular pattern to them. They just have to be learned. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about tenses and aspects. Tense may be familiar to you. Aspect may be a new word. Linguistically speaking, English officially only has 2 tenses. That's because a tense in linguistics is a marker on the verb itself. That means that the verb itself changes form, and that indicates the tense. Everything else is called an aspect. So technically, English does not have a future tense. It has a future aspect because you don't mark the future on the verb. Now, is that something that you really have to worry about? No. Unless you are taking a college linguistics course, you probably aren't going to need to know the difference between tense and aspect. I'm letting you know that it's there, but it's not something that you need to stress over. If it makes it easier for you to think of all of them as just tenses, go ahead and just think of them all as tenses and don't even worry about aspect. But I wanted you to know that that particular differentiation did exist. So let's talk about them. The present is for actions that are occurring in the present time or that are habitual or continuing. So I walk to the store, I'm walking to the store right now in the present. If I run 2 miles every Sunday, that is habitual. It's a habit. I do it all the time. So I still use the present tense. The simple past is for actions that have been completed in the past, like I walked to the store last Thursday. That's already over. It's in the past. The future is for actions that will take place in a future time, and the future aspect is marked with the modal auxiliary will, or occasionally you might see the modal auxiliary shall, but it's a little bit of archaic usage and it doesn't show up much anymore. For example, I will graduate in 2016. That hasn't happened yet. All right. Aspects. The progressive aspect is used for any actions that are continuing or that are taking place over a period of time. And we form the progressive by combining the helping verb to be plus a present participle verb. I am playing soccer. I'm currently playing soccer. I have been playing soccer. That is a continuing action. It's taking place over a period of time, so we use the progressive. The perfect aspect is for completed actions or conditions, and that is formed by combining the helping verb have plus a past participle. So we have, I have played soccer before. That is not currently taking place. I am not playing soccer right now, but I have played it in the past. That's a completed action. It's already taken place, so we use the perfect for that one. Now, tense. Tense is marked by the first verb in the verb phrase. In English, you can have verb phrases of 3 or 4 verbs linked together. Only the first verb in that verb phrase marks the tense. If the verb is in the progressive, the tense will be marked by the to be verb, not by the main verb. Notice how in these 3 sentences, I am running, I was running, I will be running next Tuesday. Every one of these is in the progressive aspect. They have the ing verb plus a form of be, but the tense is determined by the form of be. The ing verb stays the same, but the be verb changes from am in the present, was in the past, to will be the future. That's where the tense comes from. Same thing in the perfect aspect, except this time we're looking at the form of the verb have. In the present, we have has, we have had for the past, and will have for the future. The main verb lived stays the same in all 3 sentences, but the form of have changes to change the tense. You can combine the perfect and the progressive aspects and get either a present perfect progressive or a past perfect progressive. So David has been working for 2 hours is present. David had been working all day until he quit. That's past. All right. Let's review this. English verbs have principal parts, 5 of them. 3 main tenses, the present, past, and future. 2 main aspects, the progressive and the perfect. And tense is always marked by the first verb in the phrase. I know that went really fast. I hope that it was review for you. If you're having any difficulties here and none of this made sense or it's not something you've seen before, let me know and I can point you to some other resources to help you get a better understanding of it. Okay? Everybody have a wonderful week and talk to you soon.